iOS 16 has not been all sunshine and rainbows, especially with the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max. I've had both of them. I had the iPhone 14 Pro. The battery life was so horrible, I took it back and I got the Pro Max, even though I didn't want the larger screen. I've talked about this in previous videos. iOS 16.2 is out, or 16.2, however you want to say it, and there was a big change. The big change has to do with the always on display. You can turn it off, but you can also turn off the wallpaper mode to where it just shows the data on the screen. This is what the always on display looks like, where it just shows the data and the text. It doesn't show the background. This helps. It's not a catch-all, end-all, be-all solution for getting all of your battery life back, because the always on display was not the only thing causing battery issues. I'm not sure what else is causing the battery issues, but overall, my battery life with the iPhone 14 Pro Max has not been good. It's been okay. It's been on about par with what I get with Android flagships, but nowhere near like the 11, 12, 13 hours of screen on time I was getting with my iPhone 13 Pro on iOS 15. Normally I get about 7 hours on mixed stuff, like about 7.5 hours if I have mixed Wi-Fi, mixed 5G usage in and out of the house. But if I just go out on 5G, no, it's lasting about 5.5 hours. So I used to get way better than that, 10 plus hours on my iPhone 13 Pro. So one of the big things I thought was the culprit was the always on display. They changed things, and it's funny because they modeled it after Android. This is something that they stole from them, and they kind of reverted back to that. They tried to do things their own way. Of course, Android has had always on display for a very, very, very long time. And we've been waiting. That was one of the rumors for years, like the last 3 iPhones in a row. Oh, this one's going to get always on display. This one's going to get it. Well, we finally got it with the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max. So it's there, and they changed it. So before, the standard and only mode was you could have it where it was set up where it showed the background. Of course, you could change the backgrounds around and stuff, but you can change it to where it's just text now. That will help out some. Also, you can just straight up turn it off. So to do this, you go into the settings, and then you go to display and brightness, and then you go all the way down to the bottom, and there's one where it says always on display. It'll show enabled or disabled, however you have it. Just tap on it. Once you go there, you get some options. So you have always on display. You can straight up turn it off. Like, it'll go back to the original mode. And this way right here will give you the best battery life, because it's no longer keeping any element of your screen on. It's not showing anything anymore. It's just black, just like it used to be. That's a good thing for a lot of people, and that's a great way to shore up and save some of your battery. So this is what it was like before they came out with the always on display. So going back into the settings, the other option, so we can have the always on display, and then you have show wallpaper. This is how it comes originally configured straight out of the box. This is how they want you to use it. It looks like this. Basically, you have your background is kind of dim. Well, even though it's only basically throttled down to 1 hertz, 1 frame per second, it's not doing a whole lot actively. That's still a lot of brightness on the screen, and that right there is really a battery drainer. Like, it is. It drains a lot of the battery. So we can also turn that off. The other option we have is right here, where we can have it not show notifications, and we can have always on display, and we can turn off show wallpaper, so you won't get notifications that pop up. So this is the bare minimum. This basically just gives you the clock information, gives you the date and the time. It shows you if you got a timer down here, which I have, and that's it. You're not going to get notifications. That's kind of the bare minimum always on display. Different variations of this will give you different levels of battery life extensions or more battery drain. If you have everything turned on full always on display, then that's going to give you the worst battery, but the coolest stuff on the always on display. If you turn it all off, then that's going to give you the best battery savings. So you can mess with it. I think that it's better if you just have it where it shows the data, maybe even the notifications if you want, very much akin to what you get with Android. And it's worked really well for Android. And it's funny because what Apple does, Apple is notorious for this. They go out and they steal these ideas, these new features that Android brings, and then they wait about 3 or 4 years after they come out, much longer in this case, and then they kind of tweak them and make them their own. They give it some fancy name like Retina display and Face ID and all that stuff. They actually didn't here. They didn't come up with any fancy name. They just call it always on display. They tried to do it their way, and their way was to make it where it has the big background showing all the time with basically it looks like your phone is always on. Kind of what I guess always on display should be. But anyway, so it burns up a lot of the battery. The battery life is already bad with iOS 16. So the combination of iOS 16, bad battery life, and then the always on display is just a catalyst for not good battery life. And this right here will help you take some of that back. But of course, you're not getting the always on display experience, which is part of the reason why you should get an iPhone 14 Pro or Pro Max. So I'm not a big advocate for this phone. If I were not a phone reviewer, I would just be perfectly content and happy with my iPhone 13 Pro, which is what I'm recording with right now. It's why I held on to it. I use it to record almost all my videos. Sometimes I use this just because I'm lazy and I don't want to switch phones out. But yes, the iPhone 14 Pro Max, otherwise it's pretty good. The battery life is not the greatest in the world. And iOS 16.2 finally seems like it's gotten things a little bit better. I'm not having as many crashes when it comes to Safari anymore. I was having a lot of crashes. Like it would crash, it would freeze up, it would become non-responsive. And now that 16.2 has been out, I've been using it for a few days. It does seem like it's cleared that up a little bit. So I think that some of the system reliability is better. Battery life, I'm going to see. I'm going to have to test it out more to see if it's really that much better. But at face value, the best thing you can do to get some battery life back, turn off the always on display, and then you can definitely probably get about a 15-20% bump on a 24-hour period. If you're only using your phone for like 10-12 hours and you're draining all the battery, that probably means it's not an always on display. It's something in the background, it's some app you're using, or it's how you're using the phone, and also combined with just not the amazing battery life with the iPhone 14 Pro series phones and iOS 16. But if you're going about 24 hours and you're realizing, okay, I don't use my phone that much, but I'm experiencing some battery drain, probably related to your always on display, maybe try tweaking the settings a little bit and see if you can get some better battery life. But overall, just some little tips and tricks there to try and get better battery life. I did want to talk about the stability a little bit because I am slightly happier. iOS 16 has not been good for me. It was terrible for like the first 6 to 7 weeks. They finally issued a couple patches. They got things a little bit more stable. I was still having a lot of app problems, some still rotational display freezing up issues, and just plain screen not becoming non-responsive. And that was really, really frustrating because you're sitting there and you're doing something and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, it's not responding to me anymore. And then I have to close the app or wait like 30 seconds and then it would become responsive again. So there have been a lot of bugs, a lot of glitches and issues with iOS 16. I think it's getting to a better place. And hopefully just the discussion here with the always on display, maybe that'll give you a little bit more insight and some options for setting it up on your phone to where you can get better battery life and you're not stuck with the one size fits all thing. Maybe go with the Android approach and just have the text on the screen. I think it works pretty well and I think it's going to save you some battery life. And I think it's a happy medium. Like I think it's a nice happy medium for giving you the awareness, the situational awareness, the information that you want without having to go full bore 100% and use the entire background setting and all that stuff. I like it. I do. I like the way it looks. I think it looks pretty cool. Not good for the battery. So that's about all I got. Kind of my roundup with iOS 16.2. It seems pretty stable. And if you're thinking about upgrading to it, I think it's probably better to go ahead and grab it. It seems like it is a better update for me. I'm hoping that we'll still get some more improvements moving forward. Also, I like the control that we get now over the always on display. I think that's important too. So that's all I got in this video. If you have any questions or comments, please go to the comment section. I'll get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.